Danish, the old Icelandic language, river mouth. And that's exactly, as I was commenting on, what has happened with the Danish cartoons. Out of the mouth of this city has flowed a river of hate, and it has now reached around the world. How? Connections, my friend. Connections. You know, the oldest archaeological findings in Aarhus are glass pearls that date all the way back to the 7th century, half-buried longhouses. They were used both as homes and workshops for the Vikings, who've also been found there. And you've seen the Vikings on the commercial if you've been watching CNBC Business Channel. And they're doing all... They're just hammering the hell out of the job and killing people, knocking them around. And I believe the tagline is, "Well, then what's in your wallet?" I don't know if you've seen those. But that's basically, in a nutshell, captivates the Viking presence in the world. And they have done it again. Well, this newspaper, Jyllands-Posten, English translation, the Jutland Post, as I was commenting, they also have a smear name for it, translated into English meaning the morning fascist, the Jutland Plague. In 1922, this is where it got its name from, the newspaper expressed its admiration for Benito Mussolini, who had just taken office in 1922. The paper wrote this about him: "The very strong man that Mussolini absolutely is exactly what the misruled Italian people need." I kid you not. In 1933, the newspaper advocated that Denmark follow Germany's example and replace petty party politics with the stability of an authoritarian regime. Again, I kid you not. An editorial was published on May 17th, 1933. What a big year that was for Adolf Hitler, passing all of his little anti-terrorist type laws, getting all of the laws in place for his fascist rule. Here's what they wrote. May 17, 1933, the Jyllands-Posten. "Democratic rule by the people as we know it is a luxury which can be afforded in good times when the economy is favorable. But restoring the economy after many years of lavish spending requires a firm hand." The paper considered the German Weimar Republic to be a failure because of its lack of stability. In other words, they were applauding what Hitler was doing in Germany in 1933. And indeed, Hitler fooled 90% of the Germans. A View from Space, AM 640, Toronto Radio, revealing the beginnings of the Jyllands-Posten, the newspaper that printed the deadly Danish cartoons. Fleming Rose, know who that is? He's a Danish journalist. He's the author and still the cultural editor at Jyllands-Posten. He was responsible for the first publishing of the cartoons at the outset last September. Oh, right now he's on indefinite leave from his newspaper. But not because he printed the cartoons. It was after a controversial offer to reprint Iranian cartoons of the Holocaust. See how carefully the Illuminati are looking after their people? Mr. Rose here, Fleming Rose. He's not being removed because he was the cause of this global phenomenon known now as the Danish cartoons, but because he offered to reprint Iranian cartoons depicting the non-existence of the Holocaust. I mean, who knows? There could be some crazy that would take his life. Because it has happened. Wait till I get to Mr. Van Gogh. Yes, he is related to Vincent. Fleming Rose, who I'm outing right now on AM 640 Toronto Radio on A View from Space, has a major in Russian language and literature from the University of Copenhagen. From 90 to 96, he was the Moscow correspondent for the newspaper Berlinske Tidende. Between 96 and 99, he was the correspondent for the same newspaper, only he was stationed in Washington, D.C. In 99, he became the Moscow correspondent for Jyllands-Posten. And in January of 2005, a little over a year past, the cultural editor of the Jyllands-Posten, the very position he holds today, although, as I have already said, he's on a leave of absence. He is also a disciple of Daniel Pipes. That's Daniel Pipes. Now this is where it really pays off to listen to A View from Space on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Logged on to am640toronto.com and for your PC or Mac. Google Daniel Pipes. P-I-P-E-S. Wow. Daniel Pipes works for the organization called the Project for a New American Century. This group came up with the idea of how to start a global war against the Muslim world. Daniel Pipes is part of that Bolton, Feith, Wolfowitz crowd. This is the bunch that helped shape the intelligence just before the Iraqi invasion. See, the idea is to demonize Islam as a religion and Muslims as a people. Pipes is the man whom CAIR, C-A-I-R, the Council on American Islamic Relations, claims many Muslims consider the most virulent Islamophobe in America. Fleming Rose is his disciple. As a matter of fact, Fleming Rose, in October of 2004, went to Philly to visit Daniel Pipes. This is where after all, he's the cultural editor of the Jyllands-Posten. Cultural editor. In an area of the world called Denmark that is just seething with hatred against the Islamic religion. This is how they're going to start a global war on the Muslim world. And it's already begun. I'm Space, back with so much more compelling information on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Coming up.
The ancient mystery religions, numerology, the Holy Grail decoded, and he goes deeper than a black hole in today's headlines. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640 Toronto Radio. Extreme Radio, for extreme times. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
15 die in Nigerian cartoon protests. That's your latest, bringing the total of dead around the world up to 44. A double 4. 4, of course, is the number of the foundation. And this is going to be the foundation of WW3. The Danish cartoons, believe it or not. Something so, as you might have thought when it first came out, trivial. But you see, the Illuminati can build this thing up and sell it worldwide by controlling both sides. It's AM 640 Toronto Radio, A View from Space. Fleming Rose, the cultural editor of that Danish newspaper, Jyllands-Posten, the Jutland Post, who is a disciple, a follower, a friend of Daniel Pipes, who works for the Project for a New American Century, the ones who are shaping the intelligence, helping with the plan to start a war, a global war on the Muslim world, so that the Merovingians can get Jerusalem back, if you're wondering what the goal is, and seating the Antichrist atop a new world order, and doing away with all borders, personal property, inheritance, religion. It's coming. If you have a voice, now's the time. This Daniel Pipes I asked you to Google. Imagine you at home sitting in front of your Mac and PC have already made your judgment on Daniel Pipes and what he stands for. I'll tell you what George W. thinks. April of 2003, he nominated Daniel Pipes to the board of the United States Institute of Peace, a congressionally sponsored think tank. Back to Fleming Rose, his disciple. Here's some works that Fleming Rose has already accomplished. He translated this book into Danish for Boris. Boris Yeltsin, of course, is another Illuminati member from the Russian Masonry organization. Remember, Fleming Rose has a large Russian background. It all fits together if you look. But who has time to look these days, you say? Me. And you get it every Saturday night on AM 640 Toronto Radio. And you can make up your own mind. Another book he wrote, The Disaster That Did Not Happen. Another one of his books. Fleming Rose, the man who solicited for the cartoons. Got 12 from different artists. They were never named. Cleverly done, isn't it? Another book of his, The Rise and Fall of the Welfare State After the Collapse of Social Democracy. Wow. He has been talking to Daniel Pipes of the Project for a New American Century. These cartoons, first published, I'm sure you are aware by now, late last September. I'll give you the exact date. September 30th. And I can't prove this. But I'm willing to bet, and I don't bet, that the day that Fleming Rose solicited for those cartoons was the 11th of September.